This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jespersen.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. Coming up in a half hour or so, we're going to talk to two of the Dwaynes that are excited about the World Dodgeball Championships coming up in less than a week. Canada's playing host this year. It's the first time that the world's best dodgeball players have convened to hand out gold, silver, and bronze. Obviously, a COVID interruption. The last World Championships held in Malaysia. And Dwayne Hoppenbrouwers, who's on Canada's national team, and Dwayne Wyszynski, who's the president of the World Dodgeball Federation, are going to join us. I'm expecting it to be a fun conversation. How could it not be fun talking about dodgeball? But I will acknowledge there's a lot that I do not know. This is inevitable. A lot I do not know about this sport. And I will say this to their faces, Johnny, coming up in a half hour, but obviously this is not a joke. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people are going to think this is like a schoolyard game. These are some athletes that have, they were probably the best in the schoolyard at the game, and they went on to pursue these professional careers. But I suspect you could underestimate the skill involved or the velocity of the balls coming at you.
I thought you were going to say violence, because I remember dodgeball in school. It was no joke.
It is no joke.
And now it's like tenfold. It's a serious sport.
I had a couple teachers, like in particular phys ed instructors, that would get in on the dodgeball game, and they would kind of use it to work out.
Let out.
They would use it as a bit of an outlet. Anybody that has turbo in their car, you hear when the turbo goes psh, and blows off, like that was the dodgeball game. That was the role the dodgeball game played for the teachers that would get in on it. When was the last time do you think you played dodgeball?
Probably like back in grade like 8?
Yeah,
grade 8,
grade
probably?
school.
Yeah,
it's been a long time.
It's a long time, yeah.
I want to find out what it takes to become one of the world's best. I would imagine they have some people that come in there. You kind of want to walk on to the national team. You were a bit of a big deal back in the day at Cloverdale Elementary School. You remember all of the highlights. You've conveniently forgotten all of the lowlights. Anyway, that's coming up.
But I watched the video, and like I said, I opened this video that they sent us for the promotion to show on the show.
Past championships.
I was like, this is
not a joke at all.
It's like throwing fireballs.
People
at
are just
each other.
getting beamed. Although at the world championship level, there are also people that do it. They do the elusive, evasive nature of being on the defensive is
all
also
of it is just it's a whole
other
athletic.
level.
It's not fun. It's serious.
It is very deadly serious. But at the same time, do people see you like if you go, I'm a world dodgeball champion, and people are probably like, oh yeah, I didn't know there were World Dodgeball Championships. Yeah. And so this is a great opportunity for them to put the sport on everybody's radar. I think about the recruitment power that something like the World Dodgeball Championships would have to draw out the next generation of elite athletes in this sport.
Oh, you're a dodgeball champion?
You're a dodgeballer.
Whatever.
They probably call it dodgeballers.
And then you grab like a coffee cup off a table and beat them as they're walking away. And you're like,
wha-bam! Who's laughing now? I promise I'll keep my dodgeball quotes to a minimum. I had to get out the wrench one just because one of the Dwaynes, his wife was tweeting at us, and she said, he's coming up on Real Talk tomorrow. Everybody tune in. And then she said extra points for media members who do not make the wrench reference. I thought, how are you going to talk about dodgeball without making the wrench reference? I just couldn't do it. We had to lead with it. There's serious business happening, too, in the world around us. In just a few seconds, Heather Thomson, a consumer behavior expert. I think this is going to be a fascinating conversation about Zellers' return to Canada. It's more than just a store, right? Zellers was like an institution for a lot of people, a destination. We teed it up on the show yesterday. I was not saying this in a disparaging sense. I was saying I thought it was a joke when I saw the headline that Zellers was coming back, because we've been hook, lined, and sinkered before on this.
With this, yeah.
Right? People, Zellers is coming back. They're bringing back the hot chicken sandwich. Zeddy, the teddy bear, is going to be coming back. The lowest price will remain the law. And then it turns out it's actually true that Hudson's Bay Company is bringing back Zellers, and I'm curious to know, why did it die on the vine the first time? Why did it become financially, why was it not viable before? Zellers disappeared. It was lost from the landscape. And we pointed, like I did yesterday, to the impact of a competitive market in that so-called bargain retail space, plus Amazon, plus people's consumer habits changing. So Heather's going to give us some insight, I'm expecting, into why Zellers might survive this time and why the Bay is making the move. There's obviously some retail space implications here, a lot of lease implications here too, so that should be a fascinating conversation. And then, of course, the inquiry today, this is the Mass Casualty Commission. I probably don't have to remind you that back on April 18th and 19th of 2020, Canadians saw one of the worst mass shootings, mass casualty events. That feels so callous and cold to call it that. One of the worst mass shootings, mass murders in our nation's history in Nova Scotia. The shooter disguising himself as an RCMP member, and RCMP Commissioner Brenda Lucki's been on the stand. She's been taking questions, and it's remarkable, and not in a good way. Not in an encouraging way. And I'm not surprised that just by putting my finger on the pulse, so to speak, checking in on my social media, reading the timelines, not just the reporters that are there in attendance, not just the commentators, so to speak, but John and Jill Q. Public as well, people that are taking in this Mass Casualty Commission, that are watching the RCMP Commissioner take these questions and provide candid but grossly insufficient and supremely concerning answers. I'm not surprised that people are wondering, quite frankly, what the hell is going on with the RCMP. Tim Bousquet is there. He's the editor of the Halifax Examiner. He's a journalist. And so this is somewhat remarkable that he's taking this from an editorial standpoint. He's live tweeting the testimony from Commissioner Lucki, but he's also sharing his own thoughts. And he tweeted earlier this morning, quote, "My takeaway from yesterday's testimony, it became apparent to me that Commissioner Lucki rose to her position because she masterfully uses the lingo and distracting babble of bureaucracy to navigate through difficult waters without being drowned by the reality of, well, fact." He says Lucki talks fast and broadly, owning success and placing the blame for failure on a stagnant institution. Like, what are you going to do? He says, "I came away from yesterday's proceedings feeling like I had spent the day in a spin class and not the stationary bicycle kind." That's a scathing review. Of course, interest groups here, we recognize that people have specific bias or have a specific mandate, and that includes the Canadian Coalition for Firearms Rights. Remember, a lot of this is about the political interference, alleged or obvious. And of course, the assertion here is that there was political interference from the Trudeau Liberals, the federal government, to pressure the RCMP to in a way, can I use the word spin this tragedy to further the goals of the federal government when it came to gun control. And so the Canadian Coalition for Firearms Rights has posted this exchange. I want to play about 45 seconds of it for you. This is the RCMP Commissioner. Okay, we don't really refer to her like this in Canada, but you could call her Canada's top cop in a way, right? This is RCMP Commissioner Brenda Lucki taking a question on Canadian firearms laws. Have a listen to this.
And as the head of the firearms program in Canada, presumably you understand that without a PAL, either restricted or non-restricted, in any way that perpetrator is in possession of firearms, it's a criminal offense.
Yes.
And to the extent that he acquires ammunition is a criminal offense.
Yes.
And to the extent that any license holder knowingly assists him in acquiring the materials used as part of his.
I have to say I don't know those laws intimately. I know that there are obviously illegalities when you don't have the proper licensing. I know that. Whether the restricted, the prohibited, what people can and cannot do with a license, I don't intimately know those. But what you're saying, I'm trusting that it's true.
Aye. Our Canadians supposed to be confident, not only in the RCMP's response, and I'm talking about the reaction in the subsequent months and years of this tragedy, this horrific crime spree, this murderous spree in Nova Scotia, but the direction that the RCMP is taking. This is the commissioner acknowledging on the record she's not intimately familiar with Canada's firearms laws. What? Tim Bousquet continues to report, and I'm just reading from his. You can follow him, Tim_Bousquet online on Twitter. You know, Commissioner Lucki asked this morning, why wouldn't you go along with the suggestion from H Division for a review following the mass shooting? Quote from Lucki, quote, we wanted to give some time and distance to the events going on. She went on to say, I don't have any detailed knowledge of all the reviews that have been undertaken. I am probably not the best person to tell you all of what has been reviewed. She's the commissioner. Asked, so this review won't take place? She says, yeah, it's been held in absence. It's been 28 months, she says. When will it take place? I'm not sure. They talk about tracking and culture change, the culture of toxic misogyny and homophobia and how that will be addressed. She says, we have external reports coming in. The talk returns to the RCMP's relationship with GC Surplus. This is the outfitter that the RCMP contracts for its equipment, much of its equipment. This is where the killer got his replica cop car. She says, well, that's the responsibility of the chief financial officer to know the RCMP's relationship with GC Surplus. She's asked, is that under your umbrella? Says Commissioner Lucki. She deals with it. The dude at GC Surplus showed his workers photos of the fake police car, said the killer was building a fake police car. Do you find that concerning? Yes, it's concerning, says the commissioner. Moving on to the tweets during the events. You remember the photo of the cop car, RCMP had that in its possession for several hours before it was tweeted out. Keep in mind, people were being literally shot and killed by a man driving around dressed as an RCMP officer in an RCMP police cruiser. Perhaps this is obvious. I've said it before. You're thinking it right now listening to this. You hear there's a crime spree. You hear there's a shooting. You hear there is a mass casualty event. What do you hope to see the most? Probably a police car. I can't imagine the turn of events emotionally, mentally, people's inability to process what was happening when a police car would pull up to them. The individual would step out dressed like a law enforcement officer and then open fire. I can't imagine. Had people seen tweets of that replica cop car, they could have kept an eye out. They would have known. Why were the tweets not sent? Through this Mass Casualty Commission, the question, did anyone outside of Nova Scotia have anything to do with the tweets? The commissioner, I can't say for sure, but probably not. This didn't happen yesterday. This didn't happen last week or last month. It didn't even happen last year. This is happening as we're recording this Wednesday episode of the show, so we will follow up on this tomorrow and in the days to come, and obviously are eager to know how you're wrapping your mind around all of this. There are calls for the RCMP Commissioner Brenda Lucki to resign. We'll see where that story goes. Of course, there's politics all around this, but there's also the real-life nature of it. This is more than just politics. This is Canadians, and you would be right to be shocked and frankly appalled at what we're seeing right now about this national organization, the RCMP. Coming up in just a second, Heather Thomson joins us, a consumer behavior expert, to talk about Zellers. First, I wanted to remind you right now, you have an opportunity to transform your lifestyle. We're talking life-changing luxury, a $2.2 million dream home. This is the Grand Foundation Lottery. The Covenant Foundation Lottery plays a big role in making a difference for patients in their care, and specifically the Misericordia and Grey Nuns hospitals. This lottery is funding state-of-the-art equipment, and it's really contributing to enhanced care spaces, innovative approaches, including palliative and end-of-life care, urgent care as well. This home is stunning. 5,400 square feet, 5 bathrooms, John, is where it gets me.
What do you need 5
bathrooms.
for?
Well, you got one for you. You got one for your guests.
I need 3.
You got one for the, I don't know. I've always wanted to be in a situation where I don't know what I'm going to do with all the bathrooms. It's better than the alternative.
You got that one bathroom for that person who comes over. You're like, you're using the
one in the
bathroom,
basement.
and that's it.
You're in bathroom number 5. Best part about this house, I mean, there's a lot of great things about this house. It's fully furnished, ready to move in. You can get your tickets. You want to do it before the bonus prize deadline of September 1st. That's in 1 week from today at covenantfoundationlottery.ca, or give them a call at 1-888-944-2774. Our friends at Friesen Brothers want to remind you, if you live anywhere near where we do in Alberta's capital city in Edmonton, they're running an Edmonton Food Bank Drive and Barbecue at Friesen Brothers' flagship South Edmonton Rabbit Hill location. This store speaks for itself. Absolutely incredible. But if you show up this Saturday, August 27th, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., make a food item or a monetary donation, you'll get a Smoky in a Pop on Friesen Brothers. They're hoping to fill the food bank's truck. They're especially looking for healthy school snacks, like real juice boxes, granola bars, canned fruit, vegetables, peanut butter. Don't bring peanut butter to school, but you know what I'm saying. Pasta sauce. You learn this when you become a parent. Baby formula. Man, oh man, baby formula. Is that ever pricey? Those donations are so appreciated. You can find out more details on the food bank drive at friesen.com. Speaking of eats, what about your four-legged family members? Grand Dog Essentials has a great resource on their website, granddog.ca. Frequently asked questions about feeding your pup a raw diet. You know, your dog is a member of your family. Yeah, it's still a carnivore. Biologically, a member of the dog family. Obviously, they've domesticated for thousands of years, but their nutritional needs and their ability to process different kinds of foods has not changed. We have seen the benefit of our dogs, Moses and Monroe, moving to a raw diet from Grand Dog Essentials quality raw food. One of the best parts about it, most convenient, we order it online. They deliver it right to our door in Edmonton, Calgary, and Central Alberta. The promo code GRANDDOG, or rather Real Talk, gets you 10% off your first-time order at granddog.ca. And a big shout-out as well to our friends at Apex Automation. You know, they've been putting out a call to engineers across the country. They're building their team. You know, Apex's team has grown like 300% in the last couple of years. Why are so many of Canada's skilled, talented, ambitious engineers moving to work with Apex? Because they recognize the value of their people. Their corporate culture is their top priority as they provide intuitive, fully autonomous solutions to industry. They're giving people back their time, and that includes their own team members. You can check them out online at apexautomation.ca today. Well, this was a story that resonated with people across the country. When you say the lowest price is the law, nearly everyone will be able to cite Zellers. For many years, it was an institution, and not just because it offered lower prices, not just because it was convenient to shop there, but also because people connected. You talk about Zellers, people remember Zeddy. People remember.
Feels like home.
It felt a little bit like home for some people. Like just,
that
you know,
looks like,
and you can see it on like the classic Zed in the Zellers Zed. It just resonated with people.
Smells,
you couldn't stop talking about the hot sandwiches.
No, you couldn't.
Well,
I was talking about the fries.
The fries were amazing. Incredible. Oh my gosh! But it didn't work. Right? Zellers shut down, and it kind of became a bit of a trend, not just with Zellers, but with a lot of the huge big box retailers. When it was gone, she gone. Until recently, when Hudson's Bay Co. announced it's resurrecting the discount retailers. So what's going to be different this time? Can it survive? Heather Thomson joining us. She's a consumer behavior expert. She's also the executive director of the Alberta School of Business, the Center for Cities and Communities. This is in her wheelhouse. Welcome back to the show, Heather. It's nice to see your face.
Awesome. Good morning, Ryan.
Yeah, so why did Zellers not work the first time? Was it Amazon? Was it Walmart? Was it people's habits changing?
All of the above. Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, over the last 20 years, we've seen the department store model just be a really tough model to be profitable and successful with, as people started to become their own distributors for getting their own product, you know, using different online tools and going right to the manufacturer themselves. We stopped needing a department store. We stopped wanting to go to the department store if it wasn't an amazing experience, which is one of the reasons why we didn't see Target, you know, do really well here when they came to Canada. So there's a bunch of reasons, but they did fail, and they failed for a reason. And, you know, if we look back in 2013, 2012, when actually 2008 was probably the big time when department stores started to see the decline in foot traffic, and they haven't really recovered. And so now it's going to be interesting to see how Zellers is going to make a success of this.
Isn't it interesting too? At risk of stating the obvious, you had consumer trends changing. You had technology facilitating sort of immediate delivery or virtually immediate delivery of products that people could shop around for online and chase down the best details. And then you had COVID. Like kind of that double whammy in the sense that the idea of that big mall was inaccessible for obvious health-related reasons, and people simply stopped going. And once you stop doing something for a while, once you fall out of that habit, it's tough for those big malls to draw people back in a way, at least for a certain element of their population, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing that we saw that's like a fundamental shift. When we talk about retail changes, we talk about the recession in 2008 and we talk about COVID. Those are two pretty big shifts as consumers started to change their habits. If you look at the different demographics, pretty consistently before COVID, the younger demographics were shopping online. That's not a surprise. But now we see almost every single person consistently shopping online. More than 80% of baby boomers can shop online now pretty consistently. So these are some fundamental shifts in the way that we operate and consume goods and services. And so, that's not to say that as humans, we don't want to shop in a physical capacity. We like that. It really goes in with our dopamine and serotonin receptors in our brain when we are shopping in a physical capacity. So it's something that we just need to be paying attention to. And so I know Zellers is thinking they want to do a very good e-commerce site. They want to make sure that they are being a leader in the digital economy sort of space. So I think that's a fundamental pillar that they're going to have to invest in. I have no idea what it's going to look like because all I can think about is the Zellers. I worked there for like 3 seconds. Oh yeah, no, for 3 seconds. Like it was like it didn't work out. But like that's all I can think of is that big space. And they're not being super upfront with what format they're going to bring back in. And I was like, are they going to take up their old spaces? It doesn't really look like it. They might go into existing bays to take up that room. So it'll be interesting to see how they roll this out over the coming years.
Oh man, the more you explain to me, the more questions I have. You talk about they're moving into those existing locations that were previously Hudson's Bay Coast. I mean, even in our home city of Edmonton, I was in what's people will know as the City Center Mall. I mean, we're talking like big footprint, middle of downtown, a couple of blocks from the Ice District, the new arena, and the Bay was like an anchor tenant there for so many years. Having the Bay gone, and look, I was in there just the other day, and I'm looking around, and they have a real retail space issue. Quite frankly, it looks like the apocalypse already happened, and we were the ones left behind. But a lot of these big companies are locked into these leases, and they're trying to figure out what to do with millions of square feet of retail space, right? Is this an obvious move that the Bay's hoping is going to work?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. That's the big thing. The Hudson's Bay value in the company is a lot of it is real estate that they're either leasing or that they own. So they need to figure out a creative way to bring people in so they can use that retail space effectively. It's no surprise that over North America in general, we just have too much physical space that we have to deal with. Previously we needed those big spaces because we needed to have inventory on hand because that was our model of business. We sold things. We had things for you to come and purchase. Now shipping is so sophisticated that we actually don't need to have all this space. So before, most retail bays were about 5,000 square feet. Now they're closer to 1,000 square feet. So we have to be intentional with what we're doing with this extra space. Now, the Hudson's Bay Company is working with a bunch of different partnerships. I know they announced Mountain Equipment Company to be one of their new partnerships. So again, with the Zellers and reutilizing that space, they're trying to do something to keep their space relevant and have more people come in and ultimately just increase that foot traffic.
You and I could probably spend another 20 minutes talking about, you referenced Mountain Equipment Co-op, or MEC, as a lot of people know it. And even MEC has had its own storylines, right? Like moving, didn't they sell to an American retailer a while ago, which for a lot of people felt like this was kind of a Canadian institution. It was our REI, right? It was our American, it was the Canadian answer to it. And then, of course, MEC rolled out some fabulous brick and mortar locations and promptly shut a couple of them down. It's been really interesting to watch. I want to keep it focused on Zellers, though. Johnny touched on something, and then you did too. Johnny says it feels like home, and I've seen people referencing like the hot gravy, and people are talking about the Zeddy dolls, like they still have their stuffed Zeddies. And then you talked about the dopamine and the idea of like the retail therapy and the connection that people feel to certain brands. I dropped the name San yesterday. You remember San stores?
Yeah.
And our live chat just blew up. People are going, San! I forgot. People
I forgot about that.
So does Zellers stand a chance here that's purely based on either nostalgia or curiosity, let alone convenience, that maybe they can draw back a significant portion of the population that'll head through those stores?
So what will be interesting to see is if Zellers can really ride that wave of nostalgia, get people curious enough, and then if they deliver a great experience, then the customer will keep coming back. Nostalgia isn't a model of success for long term. It might be buzzy for a couple months, maybe a year. And then if people don't like shopping there, they're ultimately not going to continue to shop there because we have so many choices and this market is pretty saturated. So it's a bold move that they're wanting to come back into the discount space. So when we look at how they're going to be able to capitalize on that nostalgia, if you look at Twitter, if you look at the conversations, look at the polls, people are really excited about that. I remember going to the Skillet with my babysitter and my parent. We all have these different things that we remember and we want to experience it again. But Zellers has to be really careful that they're going to deliver on some of those nostalgia, really capitalize on that, but then also make sure that they are surprising us, delighting us, blowing our minds with how digitally equipped they are. So that way we like the experience and we will keep coming back.
Yeah, fair. I got this email from Lauren to talk at RyanJespersen.com when she heard that you were coming on the show. We talked about it yesterday, and she said, I also heard about Zellers' return, and I was delighted. Lauren says, I shopped there a lot. My first 10 years in Edmonton, I had very little money. It was affordable, and the stuff they sold wasn't total crap. She says, I bought this tiny plant. I rescued it from Zellers in Abbotsfield Mall in 1998, and it was 4 inches tall. And she says, now it's brushing my 8-foot ceiling. It's still here 24 years later. She says, I have 32-year-old kitchen items from a different Zellers that I bought when I first moved here. I don't remember where I bought a lot of my kitchen items, but Lauren does. It made a connection with her, right? She says, to put it into perspective, I had to choose between food and other necessities like heat or clothing my first 10 years here. It's awful. She says, I had no credit. I was literally skipping meals or else I'd go without something like winter boots until I could wait for a payday. People shopped at Zellers for reasonable quality at affordable prices. Anybody who lives on limited income might welcome more options for making their lives slightly less miserable. I totally appreciate Lauren just laying it out there. The question is there room in that so-called discount department store space for this to survive? I mean, to mention the big elephant in the room, Heather, doesn't Walmart own the space?
Absolutely. I think the thing that I have no inside knowledge to this, they haven't actually given us a lot of information as it relates to the experience of the store. The thing that would make sense is, yes, it's a saturated space. The market, there's a lot of options for discount between online, dollar store, Walmart. But if they can provide this great experience, nice lighting, nicer things, that you can still get that, high quality product at a really low price and have it be a great experience, that might be the differentiator here. Because Walmart's working, a lot of stores in the United States are changing their concept from a big supercenter to a town center, which is to make it feel a little bit more intimate, still similar products, similar price points, but a nicer experience. Walmart wants people to say, hey, let's go hang out at Walmart. That'll be a fun outing. Whereas we typically think of Walmart as a brand that we're like, hey, let's get in, let's get out, let's get the lowest prices. Oh no, that's Zellers. No, wait.
Well, Zellers
See, now I'm getting them all confused.
Zellers is, but it just goes to show that's their challenge. They've got to differentiate themselves, right?
That's right.
And then can they be the, it's very interesting, right? You'll like a Costco or a Walmart will come to town, not necessarily comparing the business models. I took a big swipe at Costco once in my terrestrial radio career. It was an off the cuff comment. I didn't think much about it. and our text line lit up from people that worked at Costco that were like, if you're making fun of Costco or if you're ripping on Costco, you have no idea about Costco. They were fiercely loyal to it. Or people will talk about the employment that Walmart brings to a town, you know, but then there's the flip side of what it does to the mom and pop shops. There's the flip side of what it does to the independents. There's the give and the take. The question is, can Zellers differentiate itself to say we're not them, we're this?
Exactly. And like, that's the point. If they can really hang on, you know, Walmart is an American brand. Like, we know this when we think about America, Walmart is probably one of the first brands that pops into our head. So if Zellers can make a success, and we hear lots of people think, oh, I'm so loyal, I absolutely love this experience, then I think that, you know, Zellers stands like a decent chance. I think it'll be interesting to see how they're going to incorporate a discount store within a physical Bay store, and how they're going to make that look and how they're going to make that feel. I think that overall, especially if we head into this economic uncertainty and we're looking at a little bit of a recession over the next few years, people are starting, when you look at the recent data and the recent polls, people are becoming more conscious of what they're spending. They're becoming, you know, like less focused on the great quality and service, more so on their bottom line. So this timing wise, it does make sense if they can get this going fast enough. And we'll see over the next few years how this is going to work, because like I said, Zellers left the market for a reason. We did see a lot of department stores leaving at that time. So we're starting to see resurgence of a lot of brands coming back on the market. So, you know, Zellers could be one of these ones that could be a model for success for other department stores to follow suit and give us this new generation of what a department store really could be like.
I share your curiosity, and I'm sure that hundreds of thousands, if not millions of other Canadians do as well with regards to the physical layout of the store, what it'll look like, whether or not, I mean, they'll obviously tap into the nostalgia, to state the obvious. If they weren't tapping into the nostalgia, they would roll out a new name and a new brand, and it's easier to sell that as innovative, right? Like, this is this is the future of retail, or the future of discount shopping. You think that we could see is Kmart coming back? People are talking about Kresge, Kmart, Woolco, Woolworth, Sears, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I came across a Woolco shopping bag a couple of years ago, and I flattened it out and tried to keep it pristine. I was like, there was like this connection I had to the logo. It's kind of bizarre, but it's understandable.
I'm surprised you still had it.
Yeah, I don't even know. It was mixed in with some stuff from my grandparents, quite frankly.
Oh,
so
there you go.
Yeah, that made it a little more special.
Well, even
too,
Eaton's, right? Like Eaton's has like this Eaton Center in Ontario. Like, it's still there. Like, it's like the Eaton family was such a pillar of, you know, Canadian retail. And I think what's old is new. We're seeing this again. Like, we're seeing, like, you know, the milk drivers and things like that, milk delivery, and we're starting to see what's old is new catalog shopping, which again is like online shopping, and so it does make sense for a department store to deliver on something. My first question I asked was, is the restaurant coming back? That was,
I think one of the
you
can't have a
they're
Zellers
not
without
saying yet.
Oh,
I would hope that they do, because this will be a really cool option apart from the food court. Because again, when you look at this data, a lot of people don't actually like the food court. They do it because it's there, it's quick, it's convenient. Again, you kind of got to figure out, are you convenient, are you discount, or are you amazing service and quality and experience? So it'll be interesting to see if they can bring back that restaurant and bring back Zeddy and bring all those things that will pull people in. I think people will really like it.
What are your top 2 or 3 mall food court stops? What would be your dream? Cinnabon?
Like, can you go into a mall without having a Cinnabon?
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't know.
I have some off the top of my head here, but I don't want to pollute your response, and I'm going to get candid with Johnny as well. So you got Cinnabon was your number one. What are a couple others if you owned a mall, who would you try to attract to your food court?
Oh my gosh, Marble Slab, because of those waffle cones.
You have a sweet tooth, obviously.
Obviously, but it's interesting that the smell, like what it does, like, you know, Main Street Disney, they have like little tubes of fans coming from their bakery to the Main Street, because we love this. It's a universal smell that we love.
The smell of what? Waffle cones?
Waffles, bread, cookies, cinnamon buns. Like, it's a universal scent that we all absolutely just gravitate towards, and popcorn probably. So it's maybe a little bit of a.
Oh, so you'd put what's the kernels? You'd
kernels.
want kernels in there. Yeah, kernels. Yeah, that's a.
I mean, you have kids, right? So it's like I'm constantly like, hey, if you're good, I'll get you a cinnamon.
It's a tough one to walk past, that's for sure. In closing, and I know we can't keep you forever, I appreciate you're going into overtime right now. Why didn't everybody jokes about Target. Why didn't Target work in Canada? There was so much hype about their launch in Canada, and it seemed like, Heather, they were here and then they were gone.
They were gone. Okay, so you hit the nail on the head, the hype. So we were all excited about it. We were ready to go. And there was enough people that had experienced Target in the States. And what we were expecting was a carbon copy version of what they have in the United States. So our expectations were really high. They had also spent a lot of money in the physical infrastructure. So these Target stores from the outside and even the inside, they took over a lot of actual Zellers spaces. So they had the 30,000 square feet to work with, but the product wasn't the same. They didn't deliver on the same sort of consistency in the brands. And I think that was something that people were really disappointed about. The other thing that was tough was that Walmart has had, and again, something Zellers is going to have to be a little aware of, is that Walmart has a really strong foothold in this market.
Yeah.
And so the products were probably of similar quality of Walmart, but it was more expensive. And so they just didn't live up to the expectation. If they had been clear from the start, that's going to be a different model, and they just kind of like ramped the hype down a little bit, did a lower or slower expansion, didn't go all like they did everything. Like I think they took like 100 stores in Canada and they did it all within a few months. So that it was just too much too fast. And I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons why they failed.
Heather Thomson is a consumer behavior expert, and she's also executive director of the Alberta School of Business Center for Cities and Communities. You can check out what she does or get in touch with her on her website. That's heatherthomson.ca. No P in Thompson. heatherthomson.ca. Heather, it's great to see your face again. Thanks for doing the show.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, you got it. Your top three, Johnny, in a food court.
Gosh.
If you were putting together your dream food court.
I mean, I agree with both of you that like the food court, they're not even selling food; they're selling smells. Like you walk by it and you're just like like in the cartoon, you're floating over to the Cinnabon. But Wally in the chat here said I'm a vegetarian, so food courts usually suck. And now that I'm vegan, it pretty much does.
It would really suck.
But before that, Sbarro was the big hit up for me.
The
it
big
was
pizza
just,
slices.
Oh, God. I'd take two of them, slap them on top of each other, eat it like, the cheese
You
connected.
don't fold the slice. You take two slices and stack them?
Yeah, and then you get the double decker. And people be like, why didn't you just get the thick? Because they have the thicker ones.
It's not the same.
I'm like, it's not the same. You need cheese both. Anyways, but now I just go for like an Asian or a Thai place and just kind of a stir fry with rice.
I would think, I was going to say Edo Japan is a classic one.
Yeah, stuff like that.
I think Taco Time is a classic one.
Taco Time is really good, and they do kind of have, if you mess with it, you can make like a custom vegetarian style.
Yeah.
You can put like the beans.
I've always sort of
all
thought
the
that
other taco ingredients with like the refried beans.
Taco Time is like the Eaton's. I saw somebody here that said, somebody in the chat said Eaton's was like high class and quality or something like that. And Eaton's always did kind of have that vibe.
It did.
It was a little more top shelf. Mm-hmm. And I perceive Taco Time to be the Eaton's, whereas Taco Bell was like the whatever you want it to be, the Walmart.
Sure.
Right? Taco Time, Eaton's, Taco Bell, Walmart. So I would go Taco Time, Edo Japan, and I mean I think that Cinnabon or some sort of a cinnamon bun place resonates like that. Tough to say no to Colonel's. There's Purdy's chocolate, like Purdy's, although they're never really in the food court. They kind of like their own area.
All the sweet stuff, I feel like they're just like there's a fan behind them, just blowing out those sweet smells. That's the first thing you smell when you walk by the food court.
Yeah, fair.
It's a Cinnabon or like some sort of pastry. Or
this has been a trip down memory lane.
I can smell those Zellers fries since you've been talking.
You
about
can't stop talking about the Zellers fries. You know what I'm worried about
thick
you.
Cut. They
you
were
know what
so
I'm worried.
good.
I'm not worried about you. I'm worried for you that when you go back to Zellers, when it first opens and you sit down, and I know you're going to have this moment that there's no way their fries, no matter how good they are going to be able to live up to your expectations.
I think that's what, Heather was saying. Like, I think even if Zellers comes back, even if Zeddy is waiting at the door for me when I get there with a big smile, it's just not going to be the same, I don't think, Ryan.
Yeah.
It's never the same.
Jill says if you walk into a Zellers and the first thing you see is a cafe, I'm sold, let's go. Look at this. Lauren says, I still have my patio chairs from Zellers. People are like connecting, right? Marie says Woolworths was where she did her Christmas shopping as a kid. Gilles says the Bay has never been able to provide an experience. Like, what confidence would anyone have that Zellers would provide something better with less margin? Fair point. And then people are just going, this is amazing, going down memory lane. You can always, of course, if you listen to the podcast like most of you do, you can always check out our YouTube, and then you can watch the live chat as it happens, which is a guilty pleasure for some. I know Talk at RyanJespersen.com is where you can take us down your journey. Tell us your story. Maybe there's a trash talk angle to this, or even a positive reflection.
Trash talk?
Is there a Zellers trash talk?
I just remember Zellers.
It feels like you'd be attacking a Canadian institution. You might want to be careful there. You know?
Remember they had like the kind of, it wasn't exactly the sports brands like Georgetown Hoyas and Chicago Bulls, but you could go there and get 3 times as much gear than if you went to like an actual sports store, right? That's what I remember about Zellers, is just loading up.
Yeah.
Just being like, yes, we're getting our money's worth here.
My thing about the Bay, but this is kind of my thing about shopping in general. It's not just the Bay, but I would go in to be like, I need like wool socks, and then I'd be like, that's on sale. That's a good deal. That looks pretty good. And then you walk out there being like, I just spent my allowance for 3 months, which is how they get you, pal. It's how they get you.
You have 60 pairs of socks.
60
you only need 20 for the year, but you've got
60 pairs of socks. Bought them in bulk at the Bay. Speaking of shopping. What a tacky, crass segue that was. Our friends at Sherwood and St. Albert Dodge want to remind you that if you're in the market to upgrade your ride, it's never been easier to shop either in person or online. You go to SherwoodDodge.com, StAlbertDodge.com. Right away, boom, a chat window pops up. There's a member of their sales team ready to answer any questions you might have. If you're more of a lone wolf shopper, you like to take your time, you don't want somebody intruding in your process, well, it's simple to just browse their new or pre-owned selection. They'll tell you exactly how many they have in stock, and of course, their service and parts departments accessible as well. They're proud of the relationships that they maintain with their customers, and that's why we're proud to do business with Sherwood and St. Albert Dodge. You know, we mentioned Trash Talk, which is coming up on Friday. That's presented by our friends at Local Environmental Services. They encourage you to keep it local in Alberta and Saskatchewan. They believe that communities deserve better service, better prices, and more support for local causes. They're in the bin game, right? You got a home renovation going on, new siding project like the people down the street from us with their big local waste bin. Way to go, neighbors. Maybe it's roofing. Maybe it's purging your basement. Who knows? Maybe it's the end of the season landscape cleanup. I don't want to start talking like that, Johnny, but I saw some yellow leaves on our trampoline. It kind of threw me for a bit of a loop. 'Tis the season to get that yard cleaned up. Localenvironmental.ca can give you a quote today on a bin or whatever else you need. At Kubi Energy, they are providing solar energy solutions to power your life. And on their blog right now at kubienergy.ca, you can check out some frequently asked questions and browse a lot of the recent projects they've done. They've also got a featured article on this Canada Greener Homes loan. This is the $40,000 interest-free loan for solar panels and energy efficiency. Interest-free. Now's the time to get in touch with Kubi Energy, your free quote at kubienergy.ca. And speaking of those landscaping projects, if you know you just don't have time, or maybe you just don't want to break your back, the team at Eden Landscaping does modern, traditional, and everything in between. Their projects have one thing in common, and that is happy clients. It's why they see return business when their clients move to new homes. It's why they drive their business through referrals. You can get a quote today from Mike and his team. Browse their services at landscapeedmonton.ca. Well, after a 2-year absence, it's back. The World Dodgeball Championships are coming to Canada. And of course, it's an exciting time for not just dodgeball enthusiasts, but the players that are hoping to take home gold. I don't know a whole lot about the sport, except for that I was always a bit of a mediocre player in elementary school and into junior high. I'm really excited to connect with our next two guests. Dwayne Hoppenbrouwers is a current member of Canada's men's cloth dodgeball team. He's played dodgeball at the national level for 6 years and will be representing Canada in a week from today at the 2022 Dodgeball World Championships. Dwayne Wyszynski is the current president of both Dodgeball Canada and the World Dodgeball Federation. He's played dodgeball locally for almost 2 decades. Fellas, I'm really excited to have you here. Thanks so much for making time for us. Before we go any further, did I do okay on the surnames? Did I do okay on the pronunciation of last names?
Works for me, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, you did mine great.
Good,
yeah.
good. Okay. Let's get into this. The World Dodgeball Championships. Johnny and I joking about a half an hour ago that our memory of the sport, our knowledge of the sport, our proficiency of the sport was capped at like a grade 8 level. Dwayne, you're a member of Canada's national team. When did you know that this was something you were going to pursue, not just as an adult, but at an elite world championship level?
I think it was about 6 years ago when the first Canadian national team was announced. I kind of got my mind into a space where I really wanted to try and pursue this. I thought I may have the talent one day to try and make the team. And so I put my mind to training and started trying to achieve that goal.
Dwayne, how about for you? When did you know that dodgeball was going to be a big part of your adult life? I mean, you're the president of the World Dodgeball Federation. You're kind of the big cheese on planet Earth. How did that trajectory happen for you?
Funny story. My wife was playing in a local league with her colleagues at work and asked me if I wanted to play. I did. I really enjoyed it, and it kind of got to a point where I started playing in friends, and we started playing as a group. At one point, we realized that while there were so many people playing across the country and started to meet people across the world, there was no kind of uniform approach to the sport and uniform organization. So from then on, we kind of built things nationally to the highest level that we could. And then we started connecting with people from other parts of the world. And there were groups out there trying to do the same things as we were. And so we ended up pulling together the World Dodgeball Federation and incorporating right here in Edmonton.
What makes for a great or elite or world-class dodgeball player? Like, is it the hand-eye coordination? Is it just this mindset or a pain tolerance or just like an absolute beast of an arm? Like, what is it that separates, what do they say, the wheat from the chaff?
I don't know which way you want to answer that, but I'll take a stab. So I think the fundamental skills are pretty much what you described. A really hard throw, the ability to catch the ball effectively. And honestly, it's called dodgeball for a reason. You need to be elusive. You have to get out of the way. Dodging is a huge part of our sport. And, having high-level reflexes definitely doesn't hurt.
Are people getting concussed out there? Like, are people getting, like, when you see someone get absolutely beamed, how for real is it?
I mean, the balls don't come softly. They do hurt when they hit you. But no, I haven't seen very many people get hurt since we switched the format away from rubber, and now we use a foam ball, a 7-inch foam ball, or in my case, a 7-inch cloth ball. So it's like an air-filled ball covered in a cloth fabric. And they do sting. They can leave bruises, and for the most part, it doesn't hurt unless he's really rifling you really close.
Yeah, Dwayne W. This is kind of it's a huge moment. I mean, I say Canada's playing host to the World Dodgeball Championships, which is accurate, but it's Edmonton. It's yours and my home city, and not just Dodgeball Canada based out of Edmonton, but if I'm understanding this correctly, the World Dodgeball Federation is based out of Edmonton as well. What is it about Alberta's capital city that draws the dodgeball community here so significantly?
Well, the city is really good at supporting sports events as a whole, and I think kind of we've always been the city of champions. If you look at events we've done, I had the pleasure of being involved with the 2001 World Track and Field Championships that were here. We did and I remember that event being something that surprised the world because Edmonton as a hockey city is extremely well known, as a winter city is extremely well known. We've obviously do a ton of triathlon events here, but as a track and field hub, I think that was an eye opener for people to come around the world and see what we could do. And if you look at the last 20 years, the events that we've hosted, the events that we've tried to host, the city's very much, very sports minded, very supportive, and the strategy of the city is very supportive. So one of the reasons why we've been headquartered here since 2017, but one of the reasons we want to have the World Championships here is knowing that in the post-COVID world, how a lot of cities were really struggling with their approach to return to sport, and I think Edmonton had a good plan, and we were able to kind of pick up the event, and hosting the biggest event that we've ever had, I think would be a real challenge for a lot of communities, but Edmonton's really stepped up to do that. And it's been the kind of place where people want to come in and visit, and people from New Zealand and Australia and Hong Kong, they'll spend extra time here because there's just a lot to do. And it's an affordable and lovely place to spend some time outside of the sport.
Yeah. How I'm nervous that you guys are going to roll your eyes at this question. Hoppenbrowers, maybe we'll go to you first on this. Did the movie Dodgeball? I mean, we were joking around earlier. It's like if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball, and the 5 Ds of dodgeball and all this kind of stuff. That movie, did it do a service or did it do a disservice to the sport? It got more people paying attention to it, but did it create some misconceptions? Did it portray kind of the culture of the sport even remotely accurately? What was your take when you first watched that film?
So I think initially I do like the movie, but I do think that it did a service to the sport in that it exposed the game of dodgeball as an adult sport to a lot of people that maybe would have never considered playing it as an adult before, myself included. I definitely didn't want to play dodgeball until I saw the movie, and then my wife really wanted to put a team in, so she kind of dragged me kicking and screaming to the court. And that probably happened for a lot of people. However, now I think that the movie has kind of done it a disservice over time, where it's kind of treats it like a game and not a sport.
Right.
Like a silly kind of portrayal of how, people interact with the sport. And from my perspective, the athletes put in a lot of time and effort and work into training, and it's very difficult to try and explain to anyone what dodgeball actually is like, and how players have positions, and there's a lot of strategy that goes into this game. But you always meet that, and you said it, you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. And, everyone kind of thinks part of it is a joke, and it's definitely not a joke. These players and athletes are tremendous and put in a lot of time and effort into training.
Yeah, well, and Wyshynski, I guess that's probably, to state the obvious, one of the real benefits of hosting these World Dodgeball Championships, having an opportunity to showcase the very real sport. And I would imagine that the recruiting power of a high-profile event like this is pretty significant. I mean, like the next generation of national team dodgeballers could be the 8 or 10 or 12-year-olds that take this in, right?
Yeah, I think too. And I would echo Dwayne's comments that I think it depends on which part of the world. We've had some of our international federations in parts of the world think that the movie was amazing because it some areas where they've never even heard of dodgeball, all of a sudden it was something that they could latch onto. And I think in the Americas, you'll find people, more to Dwayne's point, on the other side of things, will say, okay, it's kind of like the movie did for us. Like if you look at like Happy Gilmore in golf,
yeah,
or for older guys like me, Slapshot in hockey,
yeah,
you would, I think there was a time
Kingpin in bowling.
Yeah, exactly. And I think too, like a movie like Slapshot is something where people in the southern U.S., that was probably what they thought of hockey. The Hanson brothers and all the rest. So I think it's a mixed bag, but at the end of the day, we understand people kind of resonate with that movie, and it is what it is. But I definitely agree with Dwayne. I think the athleticism for athletes is significant. I think if you come and watch a world event, you see a team like, the Malaysians build their team in a very different way than the Americans build their team. Just like you would in basketball, right? You might have like a big, high, heavy post team, or you might have a run and gun, quick team. And in dodgeball, you'll find like the Malaysians, for instance, they build around small, agile, wily kind of players on the court, frenetic. And then the Americans, they bring in the arms and they have a really strong dig-in game. So as with any sport, as you start to see those nuances, it becomes a little more interesting and a little more like, oh, okay, I'm starting to figure this out. And this is a great, opportunity to get that elite taste of that.
Totally. I mean, it's like comparing, I don't know, maybe this is too much of a stretch. And I do, this is the true Canadian stereotype that I'll take anything and then use hockey as the metaphor, which maybe both of you don't appreciate, but you take a look at the skill-driven Colorado Avalanche and the smooth skating Cale Makar on defense. And then you look at the Broad Street Bullies, the Philadelphia Flyers of the 1970s, or I think of Darian Hatcher, the big D-man for the Dallas Stars, where you had to be 6'6", 240 and absolutely annihilate annihilate guys on the blue line if you wanted to win in that era. Hoppenbrauers, how's Team Canada built? Like, how would you describe the makeup of our team? And no athlete wants this question before the World Championships, but where do we stand with regards to the gold medal favorite status? Are we top 3? Are we top 5? What do you think?
Well, Team Canada, to your first question, is basically built as like a balanced approach. We have some really hard throwers on our cloth team, and we have some really good guys with some strong hands in playing our middle positions. I think we are going to contend for a medal. I do think that Canada has a legit chance to medal on the cloth side for the men. It's really hard to say where we stand in terms of gold medal favorites. I think European teams are going to be really tough. They play this style of dodgeball a lot. This is the first year that Canada has put in a cloth team into the World Championships. So we don't really know how we're going to kind of shake out here. We haven't had any friendlies against any other countries. So Great Britain will probably be a really tough team, and same with Austria.
As they say, that's why you play the games, right? Looking forward to it. A week away. I can't imagine how excited you two must be after 2 years on hiatus as well. People can check out more about the World Dodgeball Championships being held right here in our home city of Edmonton, starting on August 31st at worlddodgeballfederation.com. Dwayne, thanks for this. We were hoping to have a fun conversation and an informative one, and you delivered on both fronts. Go get that gold, and best of luck.
Thanks so much, Brian. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks, fellas. I just get the feeling that if you or I do this all the time, and you're so gracious, and I don't mean to speak for you, John. I don't know what your dodgeball game is like, but I
tell
suspect
you, if you were on the other side of that court,
you would have motivation. Like,
I would let it.
But I have the sense that I would go out there and they'd be like, "Hey, come out for like media day and learn a little bit."
Yeah.
And I
learn about yourself.
Hoppenbrauer's there saying like, "It doesn't really hurt that bad." And I have a feeling that he and I might have a different version of what hurts when you're beamed in the temple with a 7-inch cloth dodgeball.
You're gonna learn today.
You're gonna learn today. How cool is that? World Championship Dodgeball. It's not a sports podcast, we know that, but this is real life stuff, and it's super fun and very interesting, and I have no doubt that a lot of people are going to take something away from that. Let us know if you end up attending this and you're going to post some video or whatever. Use our hashtag RealTalkRJ and let us know about it. We'd love to see your posts, and maybe we'll feature them right here on the show. Of course, that hashtag is powered by our friends at Park Power. They want to remind you at Park Power that there's never been a better time for you to take a look at what you're paying for internet, for electricity and natural gas. How many of us are guilty of month to month, quite frankly, bitching about our bills, but not really doing anything about it? Like, when's the last time you shopped around to compare rates to see if maybe you could drop your bill by like 5 or 10 or 20%, or maybe even more if you bundle services? That's what Park Power does. And on their website, parkpower.ca, you can use the promo code 2022-RealTalk, and that's going to save you $70 off your first bill. That's no joke, especially with the cost of living on the rise. This is not part of the mention with Park Power. Let me be very clear.
I could see something was coming.
This has nothing to do with Park Power. I'm just going to say I am among the thousands and thousands and thousands of Canadians who have had the misfortune of having our mortgages come up for renewal right now, and rates are way up. Mm-hmm. And someone's going to write in and say, what you should have done probably is locked in earlier and you should have paid closer attention. But I am one of these idiots. Mm-hmm. I'm one of these people that doesn't pay attention to that until it's too late. And so yesterday I was on a call with my bank. It's pretty bad out there right now.
Yeah.
Like, our mortgage is going up by, like, I'm not expecting people to feel sorry for me. I know you're all in the same boat. I know we're all in this together. Our mortgage payment's going up by 40%. 40%.
Wow.
Brutal. Anyway, back to the Park Power mention. Save yourself some dough. Go check out Park Power online today. And of course, if you want to treat yourself, get that taste out of your mouth of the 40% increase on your mortgage payment, why not do it with a Blizzard? From the Dairy Queens of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park want you to know that the Blizzard of the month for a limited time is Coffee Crisp. And of course, they have their entire summer Blizzard lineup. When's the last time you just put everything else on the back burner and treated yourself to a classic Dairy Queen treat? Today's the day to do it.
Like yesterday.
Palisades Nemeo. You are customer numero uno there, pal. I used to think I was.
And I don't even eat the dairy.
And you don't even eat the dairy. Well, this is a great time to remind everybody about the dairy-free dilly bars, which are, and I use the word actually intentionally, they're actually really good.
Could you not tell them? Because I'm trying to sequester all that for myself.
How many dillies, dairy-free dillies, would you have in the freezer at any given time?
Well, you remember you gave me those 8 for my birthday?
Yeah. Well, those are obviously gone.
It was one day.
Well, yeah. No.
It's my birthday.
John Hicks.
Come on.
Palisades, Nemeo, Newcastle, Westmount, and Baseline Road. You're bullshitting. I don't believe that you actually had 8 dilly bars in one day.
One and done.
Wow. Every Wednesday. No, I'm not going to start like that. That's too professional. If you need to work off 8 dilly bars by working up a sweat, why not do it on the Athabasca Glacier? Every Wednesday, courtesy of our friends at Tourism Jasper, we head outside, so to speak. We remind ourselves, even those of us in this room, of the treasures that lie in wait in Jasper's National Park. It's MyJasper Memories, presented by Tourism Jasper. And today we want to focus on that legendary Athabasca Glacier. Jasper National Park, home to some of the world's most impressive glaciated terrain. And the Columbia Icefield is like a sea of ice, covering 300 square kilometers, perched on the spine of the continent, the Continental Divide. And meltwater from this ice field travels to 3 different oceans. How cool is that? From the hydrological apex of the country. It is truly a powerful place. Now, Rockaboo Mountain Adventures is one of the best ways to explore it. Why? Because they're champions of environmental stewardship and ecotourism. They pride themselves on designing programs that focus on small groups, on glacier science, on sustainability, which is so important. Obviously, even the opportunity to descend into the ice using ropes if the conditions allow. Rockaboo is striving for net zero, environmentally conscious tourism for all their products, and that's why we're telling you about them today. They have these tread lightly glacier hikes, which are super cool. So you meet your guide at the staging area. They get you all set up on the glacier science projects for the day. Obviously, they give you all the equipment you need. You don't have to have your own mountain boots and crampons and safety equipment. And then they'll walk you up to the toe of the glacier. You step onto that glacier. I mean, take a moment. It's a spiritual experience. I've been there. And then they'll show you some of these fascinating formations that are produced by ice and time, including crevasses and mill wells and drainage channels. They're even looking for opportunities to take scientific samples or to explore some of these features if the conditions allow. The goal is to provide every group with a unique and authentic trip onto the ice to foster a connection with the natural world. Rockaboo Mountain Adventures also offers rock climbing tours and beginner-friendly experiences. You don't have to be a seasoned mountaineer to take part. You can check out rockaboo.ca if you want to book your trip through Rockaboo Mountain Adventures, guided glacier hiking, climbing, skiing, and mountaineering in beautiful Jasper, Canada. We invite you to use the hashtag RealTalkRJ and MyJasper anytime you're posting about your own adventures, your own memories. And of course, you could see your MyJasper Memories featured right here on the show. I can't believe that it's already time to wrap for the day. We've had a lot of fun today. I'm going to go back. I want to read more of the comments, people reminiscing about their childhood or earlier life shopping experiences. We'd love to hear from you as Canada waits for more news on Zellers' return. We're going to get serious tomorrow, and we're going to take on some of the other stories that have been flying a bit under the radar. 31 years of independence for Ukraine today, 7 months into their war, Russia's war against them. Of course, Canadian journalists continue to face a coordinated hate campaign. We're keeping an eye on that. And this non-binding agreement between Canada and the Germans for green hydrogen, we're focusing on that. Today's episode of Seriously leads with it. You can find it anywhere you get your podcasts.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jespersen, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, Account Coordinator Lawrence Derlego. Human Resources Lena Shepard. Website Design Mike Johnston. Voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton. Real Talk's editorial board is Supriya Dwivedi, Ahmed Ali, Brandy Morin, Ann Castleman, Corey Hogan, Harman Candola, Catherine O'Neill, and Chris Henderson. Member Emerita, Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjespersen.com.